Just as the door slid open behind him, Ethan stepped outside. Liam had always loved the sight of him, but tonight, Ethan looked different. For the first time in weeks, he appeared almost distant, his brows furrowed slightly as if weighed down by an unspoken worry. "Liam," Ethan greeted him with a soft smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I was just thinking about you. Everything okay?" Liam nodded, trying to mask the heavy unease that had taken root. "Yeah, fine. Just thinking, I guess." Ethan came closer, running a hand through his dark hair, looking somewhat out of place in the warm evening. "Thinking about what?" "About everything," Liam muttered, sitting forward, leaning his elbows on his knees, trying to make sense of the whirlwind in his head. "About us. About Josh. About how everything feels complicated now." Liam felt vulnerable, exposing his inner turmoil like this. But Ethan didn't answer right away. The silence hung between them before Ethan cleared his throat and sat beside him on the porch steps. Liam finally turned toward him. "I feel like I'm caught in the middle of something I don't know how to explain." Ethan sighed softly, a tension in his voice. "Liam, I know this isn't easy for you. But you're not the only one caught in this." He paused and glanced away, his jaw tense. "I never wanted to make you feel like you're in the wrong place." The raw honesty in his voice struck Liam deeply, and he found himself breathing a little harder, suddenly aware of how close they were. Yet, just as quickly, his train of thought was interrupted. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke through the moment. Josh's familiar figure emerged from the vehicle, a carefree smile on his face, walking up to the porch like he was walking into his home. He must have just come from meeting friends. "Hey guys," Josh called out, greeting both of them. His casual, oblivious energy felt jarring to Liam's frazzled mind. For a moment, it was hard to smile back. Liam nodded stiffly, trying to maintain normalcy. But as Josh joined them on the porch, taking a seat on the other side of Liam, an unfamiliar sense of jealousy surged within him, the pulse of it cold and foreign. This was supposed to be his best friend. How had everything changed so much in such a short time? For the first time, he realized, Ethan wasn't just his friend's father anymore. There was a connection between them now, something his best friend could never understand, and it was the very thing Liam both craved and feared. "Everything okay?" Josh asked, his eyes flicking between Liam and his dad. Liam quickly put on a smile, shaking his head. "Yeah, just thinking about some stuff." Josh shrugged, completely oblivious. "If you're bored, I'm heading to see Sarah. You should join." "I mean, I was planning on you coming with me, Liam." Liam didn't even hesitate. "No, I think I'll stay here for a bit," he said quickly, needing the space. He didn't want to share Ethan, his secret feelings. The twinge of jealousy he felt from seeing Josh act so casually made him anxious, unsure of the power this growing bond between him and Ethan had. As Josh left a few minutes later, Ethan turned to Liam with a more solemn expression. "You've been distant these past few days. What's going on?" Liam stared at the ground. The light from the setting sun gave everything a golden hue, and his chest felt tight with an uncomfortable truth. His jealousy was growing, but the weight of his feelings for Ethan made it impossible to ignore any longer. There was more than just attraction now. "Ethan, that I'm confused," Liam said softly, his voice cracking with emotion. "Josh, he's your son. I shouldn't even be thinking like this, but I can't help how I feel. This thing between us." Liam's heart pounded in his chest, and there was something shaky in his breath as he said the words, "This can't go on." Ethan's expression hardened, eyes flashing. "You think I want this to be easy, Liam?" he asked, a slight edge to his tone. "I'm not blind. And if I could take back the way things have changed, I would. But I can't. I can't." The intensity in Ethan's gaze pinned Liam in place, and Liam could see just how deeply the frustration and guilt lingered in Ethan's expression. This had become something more than either of them expected. But we're both in the same mess now, Ethan continued, voice quieter but still full of weight. You feel it too, this thing between us isn't just one-sided. The painful tension in Liam's chest only deepened as he realized Ethan was right. Liam couldn't escape this connection anymore, it pulled at him in ways that made it impossible to resist. But there was one thing still holding him back, Josh. In a fragile whisper, he said, "What about Josh, Ethan? What are we supposed to tell him?" Ethan froze, clearly not ready to face that truth. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Before either of them could continue, Josh returned unexpectedly, smiling as he opened the back door. "Sorry, I forgot my jacket." "I didn't expect to interrupt," Josh said, oblivious to the emotionally charged moment unfolding in front of him. Liam and Ethan shared an exchanged glance, one so brief but so loaded with meaning that it sent an electric charge through Liam's body. "Hey, you two still talking?" Josh asked with a playful grin. "Yeah," Liam said quickly, feeling his pulse quicken. "Just a little conversation." Josh walked over to the back of the couch, where his jacket hung neatly over the armrest. He grabbed it, oblivious to the tension that lingered in the room like a low hum. "Man, you two look serious. Am I missing something?" Josh asked, shrugging on his jacket and giving a curious glance between the two. "No, nothing," Liam said a little too quickly, his voice betraying a touch of nervousness. "We were just catching up." Ethan cleared his throat, his calm, composed demeanor slipping into place effortlessly. "Exactly that. Just catching up," he said smoothly, shooting Liam a brief, reassuring glance. Josh narrowed his eyes in mock suspicion, smirking, all right. "Well, don't go having secret meetings without inviting me next time." "I'm hurt." Liam forced a chuckle, desperate to maintain his composure. "You'll survive, Josh." Josh grinned and tossed his hair back dramatically. "I guess I will, but only because I'm resilient." As Josh turned toward the door, Liam felt his heartbeat slow slightly, though the nerves still danced under his skin. "All right, see you guys tomorrow." Josh called over his shoulder as he walked out, leaving the door ajar behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. The sound of the door clicking shut sent a ripple through the atmosphere as Liam and Ethan were once again left alone. Liam let out a shaky breath, resting his elbows on his knees. That wasn't awkward at all," he mumbled, though his cheeks burned a deep red. Ethan, standing nearby, shook his head with a faint chuckle. "You're terrible at lying." Liam shot him a glance, half annoyed, half amused. "And you're too calm for your own good." Ethan's smirk softened, replaced by an expression of quiet concern. He moved to sit beside Liam, close enough that their knees brushed. His presence was grounding, and Liam found himself leaning slightly toward the warmth of it. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, his voice low and steady. Liam hesitated, chewing his bottom lip. "I don't know. Josh is my best friend. This feels," he trailed off, unable to articulate the mix of emotions swirling inside him. "Wrong?" Ethan finished for him, though there was no judgment in his tone, only understanding. Liam shook his head quickly. "No. Not wrong. Just complicated. I mean, I don't even know where we go from here, or if we even can." "What if?" Ethan reached out, resting a hand on Liam's knee, silencing him with the gesture. His touch was firm, steadying. "We'll figure it out," Ethan said, his voice carrying the kind of certainty that made Liam's chest ache. "One step at a time. But only if you want to." Liam looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes. There was no pressure in his expression, no expectation, just quiet patience. The walls Liam had spent so long building cracked just a little further. "I do," Liam whispered. "I don't know how we'll make it work, but I do." A faint smile tugged at Ethan's lips as he leaned back, giving Liam space while keeping his hand where it was, a grounding force amidst the chaos. "Then that's enough for now," Ethan said simply. For the first time that night, Liam allowed himself to believe it could be. The next morning, Liam couldn't shake the thoughts that had kept him awake most of the night. His conversation with Ethan replayed on a loop in his mind, every word heavy with meaning and every look they'd exchanged leaving him torn between excitement and fear. Josh's voice had also lingered, light, playful, and oblivious to the growing turmoil. Guilt tugged at Liam. Was he betraying his best friend, or was he simply following what felt right for him? Desperate for some clarity, Liam decided to step out for some fresh air. The small cafe just down the street offered the perfect escape, a cozy place where he could lose himself in the sound of cups clinking and the hum of conversations. He pulled on a hoodie and headed out, hoping for a moment of calm to sort through his thoughts. The cafe was warm and bustling when Liam walked in, the smell of fresh coffee wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. He ordered his usual and found a corner table near the window, propping his phone on the table as if it were a shield against his own restless mind. The sound of a chair scraping against the floor snapped him from his daze. He looked up, and his stomach sank. Lucas stood there, smirking, his usual air of arrogance wrapped around him like an invisible cloak. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, though he was already pulling out the chair across from Liam. Liam hesitated. "Actually, I was just..." "Relax," Lucas interrupted, waving off the protest as if it were inconsequential. "Just thought we could have a little chat. No harm in that, right?" Unease prickled along Liam's skin as Lucas leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table and fixing him with an amused, knowing gaze. "So," Lucas began, his tone light but laced with something darker, "you and Ethan, huh?" Liam stiffened, his pulse quickening. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play coy," Lucas said, tilting his head. "You've been spending a lot of time with him, haven't you? People are starting to notice." Liam's hands clenched under the table, but he forced his expression to remain neutral. "What's your point, Lucas?" Lucas chuckled softly, a sound that lacked warmth. "My point is, Ethan's not exactly known for being the sentimental type. Don't get your hopes up, Liam. I'd hate to see you get hurt." Liam felt a mix of anger and doubt swirl inside him. "I don't know what you're trying to do here, but whatever it is, it won't work. Ethan's not what you think." Lucas leaned back in his chair, folding his arms as his smirk widened. "Maybe, but people like him don't change overnight. You think he's serious about you? You're just some fleeting interest, trust me, I've seen it before." The words struck a chord of insecurity deep within Liam, and for a moment, he couldn't respond. Lucas seemed to sense the hesitation and pressed on. "Think about it, Liam. Are you ready to risk everything? Your friendship with Josh. Your own peace of mind. For someone who might just move on when it suits him." The tension was interrupted by the sound of the cafe door swinging open. Liam's head snapped toward it, and his heart leapt when he saw Ethan step inside, his sharp gaze scanning the room until it landed on their table. Ethan's expression darkened slightly when his eyes met Lucas's, and he strode over without hesitation. "Lucas," Ethan said, his tone low and firm. "I didn't realize you'd be here." Lucas's smirk faltered, though he recovered quickly. "Just having a friendly chat," he said, standing up as if to prove he hadn't overstepped. "Right, Liam?" Liam glanced between the two men, feeling the weight of Ethan's protective presence and Lucas's manipulative words. Before he could respond, Ethan stepped closer, his gaze never leaving Lucas's. "Liam doesn't need your advice," Ethan said calmly but with undeniable authority. "So if you're done here, I suggest you leave." Lucas's smirk faded completely now, and he shrugged, grabbing his jacket from the chair. "Fair enough. See you around, Liam," he said, walking past Ethan without a second glance. As the cafe door closed behind Lucas, Ethan turned his attention to Liam, his expression softening. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but laced with concern. Liam let out a shaky breath, nodding. "Yeah. I think so." "Don't let him get in your head," Ethan said firmly, sitting down across from Liam. He'll say whatever it takes to make you doubt yourself. But he's wrong. About everything. Liam met Ethan's gaze, the sincerity in his words cutting through the lingering doubt. For the first time since walking into the cafe, Liam felt like he could breathe again. A few weeks had passed since the tense encounter in the cafe with Lucas. Liam and Ethan had worked through their doubts and uncertainties, choosing to build their connection on honesty and mutual respect. Liam sat on the porch of Ethan's house, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. It was peaceful here, calmer than anywhere else he had been lately. It wasn't just the surroundings, though, it was Ethan. The door creaked open behind him, and a familiar warmth settled as Ethan stepped outside, 2 mugs of tea in hand. He offered one to Liam, who accepted it with a small smile. "You've been quiet," Ethan said, sitting beside him on the steps. Liam let out a soft laugh, swirling the tea in his mug. "Just thinking." Ethan raised a brow, his eyes trained on Liam. "Care to share?" Liam glanced at him, his heart racing as it always did under Ethan's steady gaze. "I've spent so much of my life worrying about what people think, whether I'm doing the right thing, making the right choices. And for the first time, I don't feel the need to explain myself. Not to Josh, not to Lucas, not to anyone." Ethan nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "That's called growth, Liam. And you deserve it." Liam's cheeks flushed, but he held Ethan's gaze, his words soft but steady. "I think it's also because of you. You've made me feel safe. Like I can just be myself." Ethan reached over, brushing his fingers gently against Liam's hand. "You can always be yourself with me. That's never going to change." Liam took a deep breath, finally feeling like he could exhale all the tension he had been carrying for weeks. He placed his hand over Ethan's, a quiet thank you embedded in the gesture. "Josh knows," Liam blurted out, breaking the silence. Ethan blinked in surprise. "How did that go?" Liam laughed lightly, shaking his head. "Better than I thought. He was a little thrown at first, but once he realized I was serious about this, about us, he said he just wants me to be happy. And honestly, I think he already suspected something." Ethan's shoulders relaxed, relief evident in his expression. "He's a good friend, Liam. I'm glad he's supporting you." Liam nodded, staring out at the horizon. "Me too." He hesitated before adding, "But he also made me promise one thing." Ethan tilted his head, curious. "What's that?" "That you'd better not hurt me." Liam smirked, a teasing lilt to his voice. Ethan chuckled, but the humor quickly gave way to something more serious. He turned toward Liam, his voice steady. "I won't, Liam. I promise you that." The weight of Ethan's words settled over Liam, and he felt the warmth of them deep in his chest. The moment lingered between them, heavy with unspoken emotion, until Ethan broke the silence. "Come here." Without hesitation, Liam leaned into Ethan, letting himself rest against his shoulder. They stayed that way, quiet and content as the last light of the sun faded into twilight. Liam closed his eyes, a sense of peace washing over him. For so long, he had felt like he was chasing something: acceptance, purpose, connection. Now, sitting here with Ethan, he realized he had found all of those things in one place. In one person. Months later, the cafe where so many doubts had been sown now served as a safe haven for Ethan and Liam to meet Josh and share laughs over coffee. Ethan had become a part of Liam's life in a way that felt natural, no longer just his best friend's dad, but someone who had worked his way into Liam's heart. It wasn't perfect, and there were still obstacles to face, but they knew one thing for certain: they were in it together, ready for whatever the future brought.